Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So let's get into it. What is your dream? So the other day, well, not the other day, but I think a few months ago, I was scrolling through TikTok and came across this video by Simon Squibb. He was going around asking people, what is your dream? And the more I watched, the more my heart started smiling. And the reason being is that when you ask someone, what is your dream? And they start talking to you, they literally light up like a bulb. And I love seeing it. I loved watching it. So his video sucked me in and I kept scrolling and scrolling. I was watching one of his videos and that particular video was him sharing his book, What is a Dream? Don't worry, I'll link everything in the description of this video. So like I said, he wrote a book about what is your dream? And I was intrigued by it, and so I decided to buy the book. And I actually did the Audible, and so every chance that I get while I was driving or didn't have much to do, I would listen to it. Even if it was for 5 minutes, I would listen to it. And when I tell you that everything he has said thus far, because I haven't finished the book yet, I can say he is absolutely right about everything that I've listened, okay? And my heart just smiled. I love the fact that he's just sharing all this knowledge and offering help with resources in all shape and form. So almost 10 years ago, I found my purpose. And it started off where my adopted parents brought me to see the film Girl Rising. And I remember leaving that movie theater thinking, oh my gosh, there's just one particular girl that I just admired and I loved because of her drive. And I remember my dad saying to me, oh my goodness, that girl from Sierre Leone reminds me so much of you because you're so passionate and you're so driven. And so I left that movie or that film thinking, what can I do to help? And I was able to resonate with the girls from the film because I am from a developing country and know how education can change someone's life. And so I remember it was coming on to my birthday in December. And the more I kept thinking about what kind of gift I wanted a gift from my heart to the world. I just didn't want anything random or just things that were just gonna accumulate space. Like I was over it, I didn't want it. And the more that I thought, I just knew that whatever is it that I wanted for my birthday at that particular time, I wanted to be meaningful. And so I was going through my purse, and in my purse, I just saw a handful of pennies. And it's as if a light bulb went off over my head, and I was like, I know, I'm gonna use pennies to send girls to school in developing countries. And it was just a thought, but it was something that I couldn't get out of my mind. And so I decided to explore the possibilities. And at the time I was a preschool teacher. I shared my dream of educating girls in developing countries with my students' parents. They were all on board. I was able to include pennies as a counting curriculum in my class. And so kids loved it. And at the time I realized that there was so much we could teach children without sharing the gruesome details about, what was going on in the world. And I remember telling my class that there were girls in developing countries that were not going to school, and they were not going to school because of violence, poverty, and just not having the resources. And so I remember one of my students asking why girls? Why do you keep saying girls, 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 girls? And I remember explaining that in parts of the world, girls, they think a girl place is at home doing chores and all these stuff. And then my 4-year-olds, because by the time they leave me, they're 5, they kept asking, but they become mothers, how do they grow up? And I was like, you are right. And so that started off as the beginning of Pennies4Girls. And the more I thought about it, I was like, oh my goodness, I do believe there are 4 major things that happen to a girl once they are given the chance and the opportunity to get an education. And number 1 is they are able to change their life and live their life on their terms, choosing they think a girl place is at home doing chores and all these stuff. And then my 4-year-olds, because by the time they leave me, they're 5, they kept asking, but how do they become parents? How do they become mothers? How do they grow up? And I was like, you are right. And so that started off as the beginning of Pennies4Girls. I do believe there are 4 major things that happen to a girl once they are given the chance and the opportunity to get an education. And number 1 is they are able to change their life and live their life on their terms, choosing when to get married, if to get married, when to have kids, if they want to have kids. And the second thing is that they inspire those around them. They positively change their community or their village. And then the third thing is that they help to impact their country's economy. They help it to grow because they're starting businesses and businesses that pour into their own country's economy. And then number 4, they have the opportunity to change the world. How do I know this? I am the living proof of that. I am from a developing country. Strangers opened up their hearts to my biological mom, and now I am the product of that. And so I ran with my concept of using pennies to educate girls in developing countries. I reached out to people all over the world through my social media. So I made a post saying, listen, I have this dream. If you have pennies laying around or pennies you want to donate, please send them to me. And so it started off with a handful of pennies, then 100,000 of pennies, then 200, then 500, then 2 million, and then 2.5 million, and it kept growing. And so my work caught the eyes of, or the attention of Hugh Heavens from Global Citizen, and he included me in his TED Talk. And it's so interesting how when I started off with my dream of educating girls at school, I had friends that told me, oh, that's not possible. You can't do that. Pennies, I don't see it. And for me, like I heard what they were saying, and it was fine for them to give their thoughts and opinion, but that didn't reflect what I felt in my heart. And so I just kept on with that drive of collecting pennies, ended up collecting, well, to date, 3.5 million pennies. I've sent over 500 girls to school in Haiti, Cambodia, Egypt, Afghanistan, Ethiopia, Haiti, Sierre Leone, did projects with a nonprofit in Nigeria, sending girls to school. Right before COVID was in the Philippines, Manila, exactly, to help youths there to go to school. And so when I came across Simon Squibb video, it was just like, oh, so I wasn't crazy. And even if I was crazy about chasing this dream, him sharing his story and his knowledge just proved to me that if we all decided that we were going to chase our dreams, we would wake up excited every day about doing things that we love. And so so Pennies for Girl took a life of its own. And so I was getting pennies all the way from South Africa and India. It was just crazy. And I remember doing an MSNBC feature, and a producer saying, "Who has pennies laying around?" And I said, "I guarantee you, if you go home and just take the time to look around your home, you will find pennies." And I remember getting a box in the mail saying, "You were right." I said, "I know I'm right, because I have seen pennies on the floor. Like, I don't walk over pennies. I'm in the street, I pick up pennies and I add it to my collection. I'm also the one that is physically counting them. Annoying bank managers, when they see me, I know they're like, "Oh my goodness, not the girl with the huge card of pennies." Yeah, that's me pulling up. Let's get my pennies changed out. And so the whole concept of why pennies is that everyone can help with this dream. Doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, you can help with this dream by just giving pennies. And also, pennies are not valued. They're not. People just throw them away, just leave them wherever. And it is sad to say, but in parts of the world, you do have that notion about girls where they don't see them as having any value, and if they do, it's very little. I want to change that, because I believe no matter who you are, you have value, you have a purpose, you are worthy. And so for me, it's more about, okay, I'm going to help you see that. And so when COVID happened, I paused with Pennies for Girls, because the whole thing about touching and staying 6 feet away and all of that, I was like, okay, I can't put my life at risk, my husband's or my family's. And so I had to, stop with Pennies for Girls. And even with that, I would try to see whichever way I can still try to help those in need, because those at risk during COVID were underprivileged communities. Like, they were at risk. I remember coming back from the Philippines and talking to friends, and it's like, okay, COVID is here. How are these people dealing with it? Like, how? And so during COVID, I had to take a step back. With then getting pregnant, I definitely had to take a step back. But one thing I didn't do was stop collecting pennies. I didn't put it out there for everyone to know, but if anyone reached out to me, I was like, yes, I'm still collecting pennies. You can still send them to me. And so I've been secretly collecting pennies up to this very day. And so recently, for the past couple years, I've always thought about, okay, Pennies for Girls, this is my passion. I love it. Yes, it's not acquiring an income for me, but it's something I can't get off my mind. And so I think it's time to relaunch it, and relaunching it by sharing my story of why I do what I do and why I'm so passionate about it. And so the perfect opportunity to do this or the perfect thing that gave me that final push was Simon Squibb's video, where I'm like, okay, it is time to relaunch this and share it to the world, and let Pennies for Girls continue to take a life of its own. And so something that happened last year was that my husband and I have a storage unit. And if you don't know, pennies are heavy. And so we had this storage unit where I had put all my pennies in that I was collecting, and it was broken into. And so while going through my insurance company and having to make a list of all the things that were missing, I went into the corner where my pennies are and I chuckled, because it was still there and it was never touched. And what is interesting is if the person that broke into our unit had dig just a little deeper, they would have known that it wasn't just pennies in there. There were hundreds of dollars in it. And I remember putting the money, those dollars in, and just putting pennies on, because we were in the process of just moving, and I was like, okay, let me just do it. I'll come back to it at another time. And so when I saw my pennies still there untouched, I was like, okay, yeah, because they probably saw it and were like, pennies, ain't nobody want pennies, doesn't have any value or anything like that. And what is so interesting is they do have value. 3.5 million pennies is $35,000, and it's crazy. When I think about it or look back at it, I'm like, it is actually crazy. So if you have pennies laying around and you would like to donate them to Pennies for Girls, please reach out to me. I'll put all the necessary information in the description. I will also share the links to Simon Squibb TikTok if you guys want to go take a look. Also, if you are a nonprofit in a developing country doing the groundwork, I would love to connect with, tongue twister. If you are a nonprofit in a developing country doing the groundwork of sending girls to school and impacting youth, I would love to connect with you. So please send me an email. Again, I'll put all the necessary information in my description of this video. And so lastly, my question to you is, what is your dream? Let me know. Bye guys, I'll see you in the next one.